All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Blockbuster Breakdown. I know it's been a while. We're in the heart of summer right now. It's almost the end of July, and we haven't had a new episode since the very beginning of May. Now, I did mention the show was going to go on a bit of a hiatus while myself and Mike were enjoying ourselves over summer vacation, but we have had a lot of ideas in the works for the podcast to bring it back. We were always planning on resuming once the semester started up again in the fall, and we are both back into our school mode, so the podcast is not going on an indefinite leave of absence or anything. It was just going on a bit of a hiatus during the summer, but we figured we'd do a little bit of a fun episode here and rank our top 10 movies of all time. No news, no box office, no movie review for this episode, just a little bit of a fun movie discussion. This is not really an official episode. We don't have a theme or anything, but we just thought it'd be a fun way to just, get back into the swing of things, discuss what we love about movies, and an overall really positive episode. As I've alluded to, my name is Liam Crowley. I am your host, and alongside with me is my co-host, the one, the only, Mike Gillis. Mike, how you been?
I've been doing great, Liam. I'm super happy to get another episode out there, especially something that I really care about, like my top 10 favorite movies. It actually took me a little bit to make this list, which I was surprised. I thought I knew everything, but I kind of had to think about it really hard to figure out what was really my top 10.
Yeah, same with me. I started out making this list. There were some ones that I knew were going to be on it, some ones that started on it, and then the more I thought about different movies, they shifted over to honorable mentions. Now, the fun thing is, neither myself nor Mike has seen each other's lists, so this is going to be a surprise to each of us as we're going along. And like I said, a lot of times we'll get news that kind of makes us groan, but we are an overall positive podcast, and this is going to be a very positive episode because we're talking about what we love the most about movies. And as I just want to allude to here, we do have 2 new episodes also in the works of Blockbuster Breakdown that should be coming out in the coming weeks. Ideally, they would both be released by the end of this week, but I can't promise anything because our schedules are very different. And those episodes will be a recap of everything that happened at Comic-Con, not just Marvel's panel, but we're talking about all the trailers we got, Top Gun Maverick, It Chapter 2.
Yes,
so much news coming out of Comic-Con Hall H, so we'll be sure to get that to you guys, as well as an in-depth, spoiler-filled review of Spider-Man Far From Home. We did not forget about it. I know it's been a few weeks since it's been released, but it is a Marvel movie, something that me and Mike hold very near and dear to our hearts, so we will be able to get full nerdy, full geeky in an upcoming episode, breaking all things down of Spider-Man Far From Home. Nonetheless, we are going to get into our top 10 lists right now. We're just going to go back and forth. He'll say his 10, I'll say mine. Mike, I'll have you start. What is your number 10 film of all time?
My number 10 film of all time is the Coen Brothers, The Big Lebowski.
All right. Love that.
It's a great movie. Very funny. It's kind of about nothing, but I think that's what makes it so charming. And the performances, Jeff Bridges is awesome in it. And John Goodman's also probably my favorite character in that one. He's hilarious.
Absolutely. Is there anything about the plot that stuck with you? Is it the rewatchability?
I think it's the rewatchability because how the plot, really nothing happens. It's just about a guy trying to get his rug back, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like this big, like, oh, here's this plot point. It's just kind of like this free-flowing movie where it's like it's very, very rewatchable.
And very inconsequential.
Yeah.
And it's just the jokes land.
It's a fun, kind of easygoing movie.
Yeah, I'm going to start, I forgot to mention it, my honorable mentions. Movies that didn't make my top 10, but I really wanted to get in with them. If you have honorable mentions, I'll swing that to you as well. I just don't want to leave these ones out. Django Unchained, not in my top 10. Love that movie. One of my favorite DiCaprio roles of all time, and also one of my favorite Jamie Foxx roles of all time. He really solidified himself as an A-list star in this movie for me. I kind of thought of him as like an amalgamation of a musician and an actor before this movie. He was fantastic, and a lot of cool behind-the-scenes news where it was supposed to go to Will Smith, and then he declined because he thought DiCaprio was the lead. But Jamie Foxx really coming into his own there. Also, Inside Out didn't make my top 10. That's a Pixar movie that I adore. I love the message. I love how contained the story is, and it really makes you think about emotions a little bit more. We also got Chronicle on there, that movie from Josh Trank, a pretty infamous director as he directed the failed Fantastic Four reboot from 2015, but Chronicle's a great found footage movie in what I regard as the best found footage movie of all time. Michael B. Jordan's amazing in it. Dane DeHaan is fantastic, and it's a great contained story about what if teenagers got superpowers and then do exactly what teenagers would do, and then one of them kind of goes off the rails. It's a fantastic story. We also have Avengers Infinity War. Did not make my top 10. Really wanted to put it on there, but I kind of had to decide between that and one other movie. I'll reveal it later on in the podcast. But love that movie. It's very rewatchable. I feel like I've seen that movie probably 15 times by now, especially with it being on Netflix. It's very easy to stream and to watch and to get access to. And also a little movie called Searching. It takes place entirely from a laptop screen, I should say, with different elements of the screen telling the story. It's a great... it's essentially a murder mystery with events unfolding, and there's the twist in this movie had my jaw on the floor for the entirety of the third act. So Searching, John Cho plays the lead. It's basically about his daughter goes missing and they have to figure out, what happened to her, and then, kind of chaos ensues. But it's a fantastic movie. Really went under the radar. I heard about it through YouTube ads. It was not advertised online on TV spots or anything. It literally was only advertised via online TV spots, YouTube ads and such. So if you have the chance to check out Searching, be sure to check it out because I feel like it really went under the radar. Nonetheless, those are my honorable mentions. My number 10 is a little film called Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia, it's a musical, and it's one of the most happy, positive films of all time. I was actually torn between including this and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, the sequel that came out last summer. But I went with the original because the original just packs so much into it with a great cast. Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan, not Stellan Skarsgård. Yes, it is Stellan Skarsgård. His son, Bill Skarsgård, is who I'm thinking of, who I thought I mixed him up with. They're all amazing. And the story is just, it's awesome. And the way they tell a story through ABBA songs, it's a very unique movie, a very unique musical, how they take songs and lyrics that already exist and then put them in a certain order where they can tell a cohesive story throughout an hour and a half production. So I think it's a great movie. And it's just whenever I'm watching it, it puts a smile on my face. It's very rewatchable, as most musicals are. And yeah, Mamma Mia, if you haven't seen it, I do believe it's on Netflix, so make sure you check that out. Mike, what's your number 9?
So I'm going to go with some honorable mentions first, actually.
Absolutely, go for it.
All of the MCU movies are not on my list. I love these movies, but I just like other movies better. So I'm just going to kind of put them aside and say those are honorable mentions.
Very fair.
But for my number 9, it is Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson. I'm actually currently reading the book right now because I love the movie so much. But what a horrifyingly powerful movie with masterful performances from some of the best character actors at the time. Danny DeVito's in there, Christopher Lloyd. I'm trying to figure out who else. Will Sampson, who plays Chief. Dean Brooks. Some great actors of that time in this movie. It's absolutely amazing. I believe he won the Oscar for Best Actor. I'm going to look it up right now, actually, because I'm on the Wikipedia page. Definitely won Best Picture. And yes, he did win Best Actor and Best Actress went to this movie when it first came out. So it's I definitely recommend it, but it's not for the faint of heart. Not because of it's not bloody or gory or scary. It's just it's about mental illness, and pretty much the nurses abuse these men who are there, and it's very depressing, but by the end of the movie it's very uplifting, and it's one of my favorite movies.
That's awesome. Anything else about characters that stuck with you?
R.P. McMurphy, Jack Nicholson's character, who's the best character, and I think Cheswick, he's a very funny character, even though you shouldn't be laughing because they're all mentally ill, but I feel like the movie's
it's lighthearted.
Yeah, I think the movie and the book kind of show how the stuff that's happening to them is quite funny, but it's also not funny the way they're being treated.
Very tragic,
the nurse is very passive aggressive, and she kind of manipulates them to make them think they're more sick than they actually are. Especially the character Billy Bibbit, whose only thing he just has a stutter, but he's petrified that his mother would basically kill him if he was ever had relations with a girl. And when that happens, I mean, I won't spoil the movie, but it was a big, very emotional part by the end of the movie.
Absolutely. Would you regard this as your favorite Jack Nicholson performance?
I would regard this as my favorite Jack Nicholson performance. I think this is between this and The Shining.
Yeah,
I think this
I was gonna say because
I do think this.
Knowing you, I figured The Shining might be on your list. You don't have to confirm or deny, but very great words to say about that movie, and I actually have not seen it, so
you should. It's very, very
I need
good.
to check that out.
It's on Amazon Prime.
All right, well, I do have Amazon Prime, so hopefully I'll be able to check it out at some point. My number 9 is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, this is where my list right away Mamma Mia as well, but this is my personal favorite. These are not necessarily, pictures that are regarded as art films, or regardless, they're more so what I prefer. And I recently went on a Harry Potter binge, essentially, and it's kind of interesting because we haven't been doing the podcast, but I've watched all the Harry Potter movies over the course of June, and I believe like the first week of July, and I put them reviewed in a Twitter thread on my Twitter at Liam T. Crowley. So if you don't want to check that out with my quick thoughts on all the Harry Potter movies, you can find that on my Twitter. And I really adored this franchise, and I needed to include one of them on my list because I love how the characters are portrayed. I love the patience of storytelling. That's probably my favorite thing about the Harry Potter movies, is they set up stuff in the first movie that they waited till the 8th movie to capitalize on and really pay off. So I love that they were very patient with their storytelling. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is my favorite out of the 8 Harry Potter movies because I love the story. I love that it's kind of a side quest in terms of the overall structure, where it does build, obviously, as we see in the third act, there's a big reveal, but I love the story of, a champion from each school, and I like that there's different wizarding schools out there, not just Hogwarts. I love at the beginning we see the Quidditch World Cup. I think it really makes the world much bigger, puts it on a grander scale, and Harry's performance is awesome. I love Cedric Diggory. He's one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter lore. Robert Pattinson gives a great performance in that, as well as, I believe this is a movie with Mad-Eyed Moody. I might be incorrect in saying that, but I believe this is Mad-Eyed Moody's first film, and there's a great twist there, which is fantastic. And like I said, the third act, once they get to the maze, that's when the movie just shifts into another gear. It's scary, it's gritty, it's at your throat. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, my favorite of the Harry Potter movies. Again, if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. And also watch all the Harry Potter movies, because I did not watch them during my childhood. I never saw a single one in theaters. I've never seen a Fantastic Beasts movie. And recently, for whatever reason, I decided I need to watch this franchise. And it's fantastic. From the Christopher Columbus movies, the first two, which are very different than the rest of the series, then we get into, there's Alfonso Cuarón directs one of them.
He does, yeah. I agree with you. Like, those first two movies are so much more like wonder, childhood wonder.
Oh wow, look at what's going on,
and then it
gets gritty.
It gets definitely by the end.
You can even tell by like the lighting of just scenes in general how much more gritty it gets. But Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, my favorite of the series, and a great movie if you haven't seen it. Mike, what is your number 9?
My number 8.
Number 8, excuse me.
My number 8 is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Terry Gilliam directs this, starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. Another book I actually read this summer, so I had to watch the movie, and just it completely took me by surprise. I never heard great things about it, but when I watched it for myself, I completely understood. I think reading the book and then watching the movie helps so much, because I think it's one of the best adaptions from a book ever. It's pretty much, they cut nothing out. It's everything from the book just perfectly put on screen. Johnny Depp probably gives one of his best performances. Another, of course, character. He transforms himself completely. Same thing with Benicio del Toro, completely unrecognizable. They play Raoul Duke and Dr. Gonzo respectively. And this movie, it's about drugs. It's drugs in the 1970s after the 60s. It's about how the American dream is gone no matter how much you find it. It's about how the hippie movement crashed and burned in Vegas, and it's such an interesting. The images are so crazy because it depicts drug use instead of showing us the actors. It shows us what they're seeing, so it's just so trippy and interesting. And I think the message at the end of the movie, especially the very famous wave speech about how the wave of the hippie movement was spreading through California but crashed and did not make it past Vegas, and I thought that was very hauntingly beautiful. I definitely recommend this movie to anyone who likes kind of this hippie 60s culture, but it's definitely tough to watch in some parts because of how trippy the images are. And it might be off-putting to some people, but I think if you can sit through it, the message and the story is very, very sickly, kind of funnily beautiful.
Yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I remember you did mention that yesterday. We were all hanging out, and it was, what was it, a role? Was it a movie you watched this summer that you really enjoyed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because we had a question of what's a role in a movie you would love to take on, and that will actually factor into one of my top 10 later on in this episode as I get further down my list. My number 8 is a movie I rewatched yesterday, and that's The Hangover.